I guess, Professor Patman, in the first instance, how do you respond to what the government announced this morning?
Good morning, Jenny May.
Morena.
I think I largely agree with Golriz. I think it's a welcome step, the travel ban on 22 key figures in the regime, but I think there's plenty of scope for applying more pressure, and I think it's very important. And I think there's a big expectation internationally that New Zealand does contribute to leadership on this issue. In Washington, for example, Jacinda Ardern is seen as a young and influential international leader. And this is an issue, which is quite a unique development in Iranian history, where a resistance movement has been led principally by young women. Young men have joined in. And we should not underestimate the potential for what's happening in Iran, because I think it's the biggest challenge to the Iranian regime since it seized power in 1979. And the reason I say that is that in a country of 80 million people, 60% of the population is 30 and under. And a lot of these young people are involved in the protests. More than 300 young people, some of them children and women, have been killed since the protest began. And just a few days ago, the first protester was executed. So it's very important that this is a welcome step, I believe, by the government. But it's very important, I think, that these are followed up by other measures, which Golriz mentioned, such as freezing assets that these Iranian leaders may have in this country. The reason I say this is that it's very important New Zealand, everyone knows where New Zealand stands when peaceful protesters are executed. It's not just a symbolic gesture. It will actually be a deterrent to the regime not to execute more protesters. So there is a practical concern here as well.
Professor Patman, I've only got time for one more question with you in around about a minute. But
Sure.
Golriz talked about non-government parties who wrote to the government asking to designate the IRGC as a terror entity. What are the implications of that? And do you see that as a step that could be taken by our government?
Yes, I think it is a step that could be taken. Not just because of Iran's activities domestically, but its activities regionally in the Middle East. And also, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that Iran is backing Russia, which has committed an illegal invasion of Ukraine. And we are in the business of supporting Ukraine. So I think it has big implications for our foreign policy should we take that step. And it would mean that we're being very clear and sending a clear message to Iran that we don't like what you're doing domestically or internationally, and here's what we're going to do.
Professor Robert Patman, University of Otago, always appreciate your time. And I know this is probably the last time we'll see you on the show for 2022, so Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Patman.